Hi everyone, it's Ricky Lee and Alex with the North Pacific Homes Group and eXp Realty. If you're thinking of buying a home, in this video, we go over the timeline of what to expect along the way with tips and advice at each stage of the process. This is going to be one of the longest videos we've done because there is a lot to cover. So we are going to have timestamps below, so feel free to jump ahead if there's something in mind that you want to learn more about. So jumping right into things, the first way to set yourself up for success is to get a clear idea of your budget. So to do this, you're going to want to visit with a mortgage broker or a mortgage specialist at your bank and get pre-approved for a mortgage amount. At this time, they can also provide you a rate hold, which is good for 120 days. And that way, if while you're looking for a home, the interest rates are changing, you know that you have that rate for the predetermined amount of time. They'll also be able to go over some first-time homebuyer initiatives or other things that you might qualify for. A really popular one and one that we utilized was pulling from your RRSP's account, because if you've never had interest in property before, you can pull out $35,000 as an individual or $70,000 as a couple, tax-free for the down payment for your first home. Something to keep in mind is that this money does need to be in your RSP account for at minimum 90 days. So if you're planning on utilizing this, you can't just put all the money in there 2 weeks before you take it out for the down payment. And so it's best to talk with your bank specialist and make sure that you're completely set up to utilize the things that you're planning on doing. It's also important to note that at this time, you should not be taking out any big loans, switching jobs, or making other big financial decisions, as all of those components do affect your pre-approval, and you don't want to be messing with that while you're looking to buy a home.
Yeah. Now, of course, the purchase price and the down payment are going to be your largest expenses with this property. However, there are a couple other expenses that aren't as necessarily talked about. Now, when we do our first buyer consultation, we'll be showing up with what we call a net sheet to help go over a few of these costs. Now, some of them are small, like an inspector. However, one that doesn't get talked about too much is the property transfer tax here in the province of BC. Now, it's BC's #1 tax, and any time residential real property is transferred, except for a few exemptions, there's a percentage of that goes away for tax. Now, the problem with this is that it can't be worked into the mortgage, and it's 1% from 0 to 200, 2% from 200 to 2 million, and it goes on from there. So it can be a big hit. So we just want to set these realistic expectations and work them into our budget. When we are doing this buyer consultation, we'll be talking about our budget. We'll see if we've had that conversation with the mortgage broker or specialist yet, and we'll go over some of your non-negotiables for what you're looking for in that property. Now, whether that's a west-facing backyard, a big backyard, 3 bedrooms, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that we've got a pretty clear understanding of what we're looking for. And once we do that, we'll set you up on the MLS, which stands for the Multiple Listing Service, and that'll send any properties that fit this criteria and be automatically sent to you to make sure we're not missing them. Now, keep in mind, as we progress through the home buying process, what you were originally thinking might not stick, and that's totally fine. You might realize that you don't need that west-facing backyard, or now you need something else, and that's totally fine. We'll make adjustments as we go.
Aside from your realtor, there are other professionals involved in a real estate transaction. As we just talked in depth, your mortgage broker and your mortgage specialist are going to play a big role. There's also a home inspector, a lawyer, and an insurance broker. Back in 2021, we did a series on our YouTube channel called From Contract to Close, where we actually interviewed some of these professionals to go more in depth on their role in the transaction. So feel free to check those out, but we're always happy to provide a few recommendations on people that we enjoy working with. We're really lucky to have professionals in the industry who share our same service philosophies, and we know that they're going to look after your best interests.
Now it's time to make an offer. And this can be the most exciting part, but there are a lot of moving parts, and it's our job to make this as easy as a process for you. Now, when it comes to the purchase price, that's our job to go through all the different components and see what the purchase price should be, whether that's going through the days on market, what comparables are out there, how much action the property is getting, are we competing? All of these determinants are going to be involved to pick a real market price. Now, as Ricky has just mentioned, we did do a video going from contract to close that'll go through in more detail, but there are a few components of the offer: the purchase price, the deposit, the conditions, and the completion dates. And if you want more information about that, we're always happy to talk about it in more detail. Now, one major component that I really want to talk about is the home buyer rescission period. We've done a few videos in the past about this, but it's new legislation that's come into effect January 3rd of this year. And so pretty much what was going on is with the COVID craze and how insane things were, 70% of sales went unconditional in 2021. And then that leaves buyers to a large amount of risk because they're not doing the proper due diligence. So what the provincial government has decided, and they'll follow suit as if you were buying a new strata property. And if you are buying a new strata property directly from the developer, you're automatically given 7 days to rescind your offer. So you don't necessarily write conditions as that's already built into the contract. So what the provincial government has done is they now automatically give you 3 days as a rescission period with every offer that's written, as long as it's residential real property. So commercial property doesn't include this. Now with this 3-day rescission period, that's not necessarily enough time for a mortgage to get through because appraisers will take a bit of time, underwriters take longer than that. So it's mostly geared towards getting an inspection done. Now it's great because it gives you an opportunity to back out, but this only necessarily applies to an unconditional offer. If you do have conditions in the offer, this pretty much is negated. So our biggest concern when this legislation came out is buyers are now going to go out and tie up a whole bunch of properties and pick the one that they want. So what the provincial government has done is if you back out because of the rescission period, and again, only works if it's an unconditional offer, but if you do back out, you owe the seller 0.25% of the total purchase price. Now here in the Victoria Real Estate Board, we have what we refer to as Addendum 2, which has your main clauses there, or your main conditions that are already associated with the contract. Now when you're buying a freehold property, not a strata, you've got your financing, your inspection, your insurance, and a title search. And if you're buying a strata property, we want to make sure we're reviewing those strata documents as well. Now, another condition that is starting to become more popular now that the market has cooled off is the subject to sale of your property. So a lot of people are a little nervous about going out and getting their property on the market before they find something. So this enables them to get a property tied up and then sell their property. And if they cannot sell the property, then of course the purchase doesn't complete. Now, it's too short of a video to go into this in detail, but in Victoria, we have what we refer to as a time clause Form 1. And that enables the sellers to enact a time clause if they receive another buyer's that's an offer that they like. So we can go about that in more details, but just so you guys are aware.
And then it leads us to the very best part. We remove subjects and you close on your new home. So a few days before the home closes, your chosen lawyer will ask you to come to their office and sign all the necessary paperwork to transfer title over to your name. And then if the closing day is on the same day as possession day, we do need to wait until we receive confirmation that the title has transferred before we can get you the keys to your new home. And then it's time to celebrate. This is why some people will put the closing day the day before possession day, in case on that official possession day they want to get in first thing in the morning for moving purposes. Then having the closing day on the day before helps ensure that there's no delay there. And then from there forward, we do provide an annual home assessment, and this gives us an opportunity to talk about any renovations or maintenance that you've done on the property, how the home is working for you, if you need any recommendations for work that you'd like to get done. For most people, their home is their largest investment, so even if you're planning on staying in your home until the very end, it's a great idea to review your asset yearly, and it gives us a chance to touch base and celebrate any other milestones that have happened that year. Buying a home is a really big milestone, and it's a huge honor for us to be a small part of that. So thank you for choosing us with such a big decision, and if you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out.